So I have had to sit down a little bit so that I don't react too emotionally here. I'm not even an England fan, but it was really frustrating to watch them play today. Reminded me a lot of the way my Arsenal play. So what went wrong in this game for England? I spoke about just before the 1 hour mark, speaking about why the game was still a 0-0. So I'm going to talk about three things that I think were, some of the most influential things in the game. Um, so first thing is you have two teams. One knows who they are, and one is trying to play like a Pep Guardiola slash Spanish team. England today is that team. Okay, so Scotland knows who they are. They're very limited in terms of offensive talent. So they're set up in a 3-5-2 to try and be solid and resistant against the England powerhouse players. England has a lot of very talented, famous players. So for me, I kind of called this a David and Goliath, and that was not hyperbole. That was, really paying the respect that England deserved in terms of their talent superiority in the team. That in the team that they have at this tournament, they have a lot of really talented players. Most of them play for top teams in England, and some of them, like Kieran Trippier, just won in Spain with Atletico. So Scotland was smart, gave England the ball. Okay, so that's the one thing. So they knew who they were. They were going to sit deep, and they were going to just let England have the ball as long as they let them play in front of them. They were going to be happy with that. And if there's an opportunity to counterattack, as we saw a few times, Scotland was going to try and hop on it. The second thing for me, I think, because of this new way of trying to play with possession football for England, which it looked okay, but you can see that they're not quite yet confident in moving the ball a little faster. They don't quite yet know who they are within that system in the England jersey. So it was a little bit too labored. So I'm not gonna just knock England here. I'm giving Scotland credit for slowing them down and keeping bodies in front of England. So it didn't work. And so the reason I was saying in my kind of like midway live that England needed to do something different, it was because you've seen it for 60 minutes, Gareth Southgate. You've seen that Scotland are able to read the moves before you guys are making them in these like nice little sweet patterns that you have on the either wing, passing the ball in kind of like a horseshoe shape, but going nowhere really. I mean, they did have a few chances, to be fair, but God, it was boring. It was really boring. It was like watching a typical English Premier League game between the top 6 team and a newly promoted team that's not Leeds or Wolves in the last few years. Actually, even Wolves would sit deep. It was a very much defense against offense. So that's the other thing. England's game was too slow. So the first thing, Scotland, who knew they were honest and stayed true to their game plan against a better team, and they frustrated them. Number 2, England didn't know what to do with it because they were playing in predictable patterns. Trying to share the ball, which was nice, but it was not really allowing them to do what they need to do. With the aim of the game of football is to score goals. And they were not able to do that because there was a structured defense, just like they had a structured offensive play. And so what I thought should happen at an hour mark was that the coach could play a few more cards. He had a few more cards than Scotland that he could play. And that would then allow England to change gears a little bit. And England would have then, asked different questions to Scotland because, when you are playing as a team, team offense is great. But if you are facing team defense that is also just as good or that's able to match your team defense, then you need some level of individual, difference maker or some level of individual brilliance to break the game into your favor. I can't fault Scotland for the way they played, even though I don't like defensive football. They had limited resources. England had Jack Grealish. They had I didn't like that they brought on Marcus Rashford for Harry Kane, but I do think it would have been better to keep Harry Kane, even though he was struggling, and bring in, because he's a big guy, big presence in there, and then bring in for the two wings, just make it straight swap at wing, take off Phil Foden, who did come off for Grealish, but then they push Raheem Sterling on the right wing. Sancho is more comfortable on the right wing than Raheem Sterling. I'm not saying Sterling can't play on the right wing. Sterling is a good player, but I just thought, because both of those players play for Man City and they usually play pattern football and, very structured, and Scotland was doing well within that just for this game. I'm not saying one player is better than the other. They're all great players. However, for this game, I just think in order to break the deadlock, England needed some innovators in their team, and they had a few. I might have even stuck in Bukayo Saka. I know he was not on the bench today, but like I've seen him for Arsenal all year last year. He's a kid who can improvise on the fly, can like really force the issue with defenders, push them into their penalty box, force contact, get a penalty, something like that. And I think, he was a little too conservative, and if he didn't want to take off Sterling or whatever, then take off Declan Rice. Scotland were letting you play with the ball. Take off Declan Rice, drop Mason Mount to next to Calvin Phillips, and then put someone else at 10. Put Sancho at 10. Like he could have done a lot more to help his team out here today. So unfortunately, England tie the game. It's not the end of the world for them. I think they will be fine. However, I do think their coach moving forward is going to cause problems for them, because it seems to me right now he doesn't know how to utilize the mass of talent that he has in his squad. It doesn't seem to me that he's quite comfortable yet, being coming out of his like very intellectual, controlling style of leadership. I love him as a press conference guy. I love him as a human. I think most football fans who are sensible would love Gareth Southgate as a guy, but as a coach, man, I worry. I mean, I know that England won't do anything drastic. I don't think they'll fire him, and I'm not, one to say who should be fired and whatnot. I know, I'm part of a fan base that likes to talk about firing coaches. So I'm not gonna, talk about what should happen with him during a tournament, because he could turn around and win this thing. However, I do think his in-game adjustments need a lot of work. He needs to get better at that. He needs to read what the defenses are offering and then play a card. If I had contact with him, I would say to him, man, watch basketball. Especially in this off season, the guy who coaches the LA Clippers, Tyronn Lue, that guy looks at what the opponents are giving, and then asks a different question. And if they answer that question well, ask another question. So, I just wanted to say that, and I mean, this is fun. It's fun. It's fun seeing the different ways in which coaches approach a game, and yeah, I'm excited to see what comes out, especially in the knockout stages. But some of these games in the first round, or the group stage, are giving a lot of food for thought in terms of coaching approaches, playing styles, and the different things that different teams do to offset or gain an advantage where they don't have as much of an advantage compared to their opponents. Stay up, stay positive. Listen, just enjoy this Euros.